Welcome back, everybody. I'm Doug, and this is Dying to Retire. In today's episode, I'm going to be answering a question from a viewer that I did answer in the previous comment section, but this actually deserves a whole episode. Now, the viewer's named Mike, and he sent in the question, which was, my wife is Guatemalan. How do we get our U.S.-born kid Guatemalan residency? And it's all about citizenship by blood, right? Or just sanguinis, and hopefully I pronounced that right. So, Mike, I got you covered. This is going to be the episode for you. So, stick around. I'm going to talk about the process. I'm going to talk about some pitfalls, and I'm going to have a bonus for grandkids. And I know you're not that old yet, but just keep that in mind. Okay, let's break this down. Mike's question's about getting Guatemalan residency for his U.S. born child, and his wife is Guatemalan or likely has dual citizenship, right? And I'm going to replace the word residency with citizenship because I think that's really what Mike's question was about. Now, I dug into this. I came across it when I was digging into the research for my process of getting residency. But it also is very timely because, like I said, my wife is Guatemalan because I'm getting a spousal residency or working on it. And she has two older siblings who both had children born in the United States. And she has a younger sibling who is born in the States and has 4 children born here. So today we're going to cover first thing about why Guatemalan citizenship matters. Then I'm going to cover a little bit on the step-by-step process. It's going to be at the 5,000 foot level. Then I'm going to talk about some pitfalls, and I'm going to have a bonus on the grandkids. And if I am going too fast, I am going to put some slides up in here in the background so you can follow a little bit and pause and look if you want to. I'm also going to put some information in the episode description to help folks out, right? If you want to leave comments, please do that. Reach out. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. It helps everything out. All right. Are you ready? Let's dive in. So what does Guatemalan citizenship do for your child? So the biggest question you should ask yourself is, at the end of the day, how does this benefit me or how does this benefit my child? That's the question that you should be really looking at. When I worked for the government, that's the thing that we had to look through those lens, through that optics, because that's one of the biggest questions of many things before we started looking into them. At the end of the day, what does it mean to me? Citizenship through blood, unlike naturalization, naturalization requires a 5-year residency period, and the last 2 years you're going to have to stay in Guatemala, not leave, in order to get that citizenship. Your child, being a child of a Guatemalan citizen, your wife, can claim citizenship through birth, through his Guatemalan parent. No residency requirement is needed. Now, I learned this researching for my stuff, but also I looked at it for my nieces and nephew as well. So here's what it unlocks, and this is really important. It's going to sound a lot like residency, but it's a little residency plus. So think about it that way. You can live in Guatemala. This first one, you can live in Guatemala indefinitely. There's no 90-day visa rule. You don't have to travel to Mexico or go to Salvador, be there for a day, then come back and get your passport stamped. No, you don't have to do that when you have citizenship. Kid can stay as long as you want. Send them down to the grandparents. Let them stay there for a long time, right? Longer than a summer, right? I'm just joking. Maybe not. Practical perks on there. And this is kind of important as well, because when they're old enough, they can get a Guatemalan driver's license without jumping through any extra hoops. They can open a bank account with fewer restrictions, inherit assets like home, money, property with a smoother process. I also think it helps with purchasing property because there are some stuff I haven't fully delved into it about purchasing property on waterfront, like beach stuff. Sorry, printer's going crazy. Beach stuff or like on Lake Atitlan. There's also going to be that cultural connection, and to me, it's more than seeing the cobblestone streets of Antigua and some of the other ones, the beauty of Lake Atitlan, researching their Mayan heritage, if they have indigenous blood in them, going to the markets, learning marimba music, learn the family traditions. But one of the biggest things, and what I really appreciate, because I've traveled around the world a little bit, you get to appreciate being born in the United States more. Okay. I don't know much, Mike, about your wife, but she probably didn't move to middle of Arkansas or middle of something in the Ozarks or Appalachia. It probably was a little bit more developed area. So you didn't really see third world in the United States. But being able to travel back to Guatemala, seeing his mother's roots, you are going to have developed areas like Guatemala City and Antigua and Chela, which has a Panda Express and everything else like that, the nice Oakland malls and everything, and I can't even pronounce it now. You have all those things that they can see. But also when you're Guatemala, you're going to possibly go out into the campos and you're going to see poverty. Same poverty that you actually see in the United States, but it's mainly going to be traditional Guatemalan people in there. Places with no electricity, they have a running, what do you call it, a generator for power only during certain times. So you get to appreciate where your family came from, but you also get to appreciate the America that you live in. And I think that's very important. Okay. Lastly, citizenship, you do get a vote in elections. Once they turn like 18, of course, but there's a catch when it comes to the presidential and vice presidential election. And I'll talk about that in a second. Dual citizenship, you get to keep it. You don't have to choose. And hopefully that's what Mike is looking for. He and his wife are looking for their child. So how do you make it happen? We're going to need to talk about the process. Mike, this is all for you, okay? And hopefully I don't rumble through this too much. Like I said, it's been a long day. I was out helping my father-in-law in the yard. It's hot as hell, okay? With your Guatemalan wife, your kids born in the US, situated in a very perfect way to get this done, just like my wife's sister and older brother's child is set up. At the end of the day, this is what's the most important thing you're wanting to do. And I'm going to walk through the steps. The objective for you to do is get your child a Guatemalan birth certificate. Yes, it means they're going to have two birth certificates, their U.S. birth certificate, and at the end of the day, a Guatemalan birth certificate from RENAP. And I'm going to talk about that right now. The first thing you need to do is make sure you have the U.S. birth certificate for your child. You're going to have to turn around and get that apostilled. I've talked about that in other episodes. It's just the formality from the Hague Convention on Apostilles, where one country will recognize another country's official documents, right? An apostille, give an example here. If your child was born in California, you would reach out and work through the Office of the Secretary of State for California with that birth certificate from California, and that office there would apostille the birth certificate. They'd send it back to you. Remember, what you get back, don't take the staples out or anything. I learned that one. All right. So that's what the process you're looking for. The next step that you're looking for the process, and it's a substep in there, is when you get your birth certificate back, that birth certificate has to be translated into Spanish by a certified sworn translator from Guatemala here, right? So it's going to have a translator seal on it, okay? So with that in there. But this next step actually helps with this one because I'm going to highly recommend do this next step. Do not try to do this by yourself, okay? Hire a Guatemalan attorney who handles residency and citizenship processes, okay? That's going to save you a lot of time. Reason why is because part of their services, the fees that you pay in those services, often cover the translation services as well as the document filing cost with the Guatemalan government. So getting a Guatemalan attorney, the abogado, will save you. They'll handle the submissions and they'll save you navigating the quirks, okay? So I highly recommend this. You can find one. You can reach out to the consulate. They may be able to recommend some. You can look at the Guatemalan Bar Association to look at them. But also, if you can play around with Facebook, if you have Facebook, there are some sites about gringos, expats in Guatemala and everything like that. They often have little discussions about lawyers and people who work on the residency process. Next step after this, going to happen is your Guatemalan attorney is going to submit the translated documents, your birth certificate, along with other documents to the Guatemalan Civil Service Registry. It's known as RENAP, and I'm going to butcher this. Registro Nacional de las Personas, right? Your wife likely will have to provide proof of her Guatemalan citizenship as well, and that may have to get certified as too from Guatemala. It's like a Guatemalan birth certificate or her or her passport if she still has it, or her DPI card, right? So your lawyer is going to submit this with other documents for processing. The processing can take a few weeks to several months. So patience is key here, okay? After this gets done, this is where it's all out there. RENAP is going to approve the packet. And when they approve the packet, they're going to issue a Guatemalan birth certificate with a Guatemalan identification number, a CUI. That's the 5 steps you're going to have to work through. Once you get that done, that allows you, once you get that birth certificate, you can get a Guatemalan passport and you can apply for the Guatemalan DPI. Okay? So that's what this sets you up for. If you're in the States, check the consulate for about getting a passport. If you're in Guatemala when you're doing all this or doing a lot of this, because this may require a trip to Guatemala, if you're doing this stuff, work with your Guatemalan attorney. They're going to help you on it. Now, a few notes. Families, the kids, have not gone through this process yet, but the process is pretty straightforward, especially if you use a lawyer. Now, I'm going to tell you, the costs can add up. You got to pay for the apostille, pay for the services with a lawyer, which hopefully includes the translation services. You're also going to have to be covering the attorney fees, like I just mentioned, but also any government fees as well. Check with a Guatemalan attorney for the exact requirements that you're going to need, because there may be additional parental IDs or marriage certificates that are needed. But again, patience is key. Next up, what about the grandkids? Bonus here for you, Mike, is citizenship by blood for this born grandchild. And we're going to use you as an example. Let's say it comes time for your grandchild. All right. So we're thinking ahead. I know it's a couple of years. You don't want to have to worry about it, but it's there. I looked into this for see what I could do to help or get some stuff lined up for my wife's brother, younger brother, who has the 4 children born in the States, right? Bad news first. Guatemalan grandparents, like my wife's parents, cannot directly pass citizenship to their grandkids. No bueno. It's not going to work. The key is for the parent, your child, needs to get their Guatemalan citizenship first. Okay, suppose a U.S. born parent has Guatemalan citizenship, right, through their Guatemalan parents. In that case, kids, your grandkids, can follow the same 5 steps that we just covered. The apostille birth certificate translated, get a lawyer, register RENAP, get that Guatemalan birth certificate. That will work. That's what they will need to do. But if your child never got their Guatemalan citizenship, it's tougher, okay? There's no direct path. The grandparents can't pass it through. The alternative is naturalization, which requires residency in Guatemala, like we mentioned earlier, for 5 years. You got to show proof why you're going to be there, all that stuff. It's a pain in the ass, right? It's a hassle. So, short story long, if the parent is eligible, let them get their citizenship first, get that sorted out, then tackle the grandkids, okay? That's what I highly recommend. Now, let's talk about some pitfalls to avoid. Paperwork is never fun. I learned a shit ton about pitfalls researching apostilles, birth certificates, as well as my actual mailing in the process, sending the documents out, sending it to the wrong spot. It can be problematic. Okay, but here's the main things I learned, the pitfalls. This is not free. All of this process costs money. And I'm going to tell you, you're going to need about $2,000 to $2,500 set aside for each one that you're working on this, because it's a process. Luckily, a lot of the Guatemalan attorneys get paid initially amount of money and then get paid at the very end of the game. It's like loan payments, right? So budget a few $1,000s for this, depending on your attorney. Also, depending on where you are in the United States, the Guatemalan consulates, the service have some variations, I've heard. They're not all created equal. Some might require extra documentation, like the marriage certificate I talked about, additional IDs. Others might charge higher fees and stuff on that. For example, the Rockville, Maryland here, the consulate recently moved there, but they used to be in Silver Spring. They're now in Rockville, and I'm seeing this stuff on Facebook and everyone. They like their services there, but when it was in another part of Montgomery County, Maryland, apparently it wasn't doing as well. So go figure there, right? Now, this does not apply to Guatemala, but for other countries, it might. Other countries have rules, and you're going to have to look into it for those who are thinking about citizenship in other countries. You're going to have to really think about it for your kids and yourself because some countries have obligations like conscription and or taxes. Now, conscription is mandatory military service between a certain age, 18 to like 30 something, right? Some countries require their citizens to pay taxes no matter where they're at. So be mindful of what they have. Again, it's not Guatemala, but you want to be mindful for there. Also, if you're a U.S. federal employee or a contractor or you're part of this process, you're going to want to work with your security office on this because sometimes having it or having it suddenly pop up and not keeping them advised of what's going on can cause issues. So you want to talk to the security office in order to stay compliant. Now, dodging these pitfalls makes the process smoother. So let's wrap this up. Mike's question was, how did he get citizenship for his U.S. born, how to get Guatemalan citizenship for his U.S. born child through his wife? And it unlocks a lot of benefits from living freely in Guatemala, travel, not requiring the visa. You can stay more than 90 days, purchasing stuff. They do having a Guatemalan passport, has visa-free travel to about 133 countries. Now, the U.S. passport and the Guatemalan passport have different countries that they have visa travel. They have a lot of similar ones, but there are some differences in there. So you want to look that up. Driver's licenses, bank accounts, inheritance rights, and of course, the cultural connection. The process, we talked about that, about getting the birth certificates, getting them apostilled, getting them translated, getting a Guatemalan attorney, getting that documentation submitted, and the key, getting a Guatemalan birth certificate, because that sets everything in motion. We talked a little bit about grandkids. What needs to be done for the grandkids? What's the smart way to do it? And what's not the good way to do it? The challenge, okay? We talked about watching out for pitfalls. This is not cheap. The costs are going to add up. Consulates vary. Document errors can cause delays and a whole lot of stuff. If you're a federal employee or a contractor to the federal government, requires security stuff or anything with security, you're going to have to keep your security apparatus or security folks informed because you want to stay compliant, right? Also, and I'm going to put this in the description below. If you have questions, recommend you start reaching out to the Guatemalan Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They have an account. They also have a Facebook account. I'm going to have that down there along with an email. I'll have the address for the Rockville consulate as well. It's a great resource. They have an email address, I believe, in there too. I'm going to give you a pro tip. If you're going to send an email to them, Mike, and anyone else, highly recommend you write and craft your email in English, then drop it in an AI program and have it translated to Spanish, in particular, Central American Spanish. You will get faster replies. In fact, sometimes English written email does not get responded to, but one in Spanish will. Like I said, for grandkids or trickier cases, go with a lawyer. That's your best bet. If you got questions or stories, do me a favor, drop them in the comments. I'd love to hear about them. Thank you for joining me today. If you found value in this episode, do me a favor, smash the like button and subscribe for more. If you want more on the Guatemalan paperwork, do me a favor and check out my 2-part series, Guatemalan Residency Paperwork, Navigating the Nightmare. Drop your questions or experiences in the comments below. So let's keep this conversation going. As always, I'm Doug. This is Dying to Retire, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.